Hi, I'm Daniel Lockman. You probably don't know me because I'm not famous, but did you know that there's an epidemic on the internet? There are literally millions of super old, super useless, sad, lonely cameras, all up on eBay with no families. Well, since I'm such a fantastic person, I adopted 2 of these little guys. Here you go, little guy. I love you. Seriously though, these things are just old as shit.
That's right, I've got 2 really old fucking VHS cameras here. This Panasonic with its nice sleek boxy design is from 1985. That's 2 years older than me. And the Sharp? I'm not really sure, but I think it's from the 90s because the design's a little sleeker. Oh, and in case you didn't know, this thing has autofocus and auto zoom. And it's really fucking slow. And what better way to experience that than looking through a fuzzy black and white viewfinder? And for some reason they put a fuck ton of buttons on these cameras. There's like more than a cockpit of a NASA space shuttle. Everywhere you look there's a goddamn button. It's like every time the engineer saw a blank spot on the camera they said, oh, we gotta put a button there. They really just like buttons. They would hide them everywhere. They did all sorts of weird stuff, like this shoulder fold-out thing that I don't know what it's for, so I guess you could put some food there if you were hungry while you're shooting or something.
And let's not forget, if you got one of these back then, you always got one of these. They just loved cases back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, the case. It's like an OCD person's wet dream. For some reason back in the day, everyone was obsessed with compartmentalizing things, which must have looked great when you first bought this camera and this case, but when you start taking everything out, you can't even fucking figure out how to get it back in the thing. And they gave you a lot of accessories with these cameras.
Cables. You gotta have all these cables. Like, what the hell is that? It's some sort of like...
Which is really cool because you have a lot of options, but when you start actually putting this shit on the camera, it just starts getting to be a fucking huge mess. By the time you go outside, you look like a goddamn monster.
Yeah! Alright, let's go shoot a video. Yeah!
You know what you ought to do with all that shit? That's right, it's back in the damn case. If you can. Now, if you were anything like me when I was a kid, you were so excited because you had this giant camera you were taking around and you were going to shoot stuff and it was going to look just like the movies. When you popped that VHS into the TV and you sat down and you looked and you were like,
what the fuck?
I remember feeling a lot of confusion as to why it didn't look like the movies. You definitely weren't going to win an Oscar in cinematography with one of these cameras. But for the quality of the movies I made in my childhood, it worked. And that got me a fully non-existent scholarship to film school.
So, one of the hardest parts about this shoot has been getting the stupid cameras to work. Both of them have died, but they'll still take video. So I had to hook them up to a laptop and record to that while I'm powering it from a giant battery in a backpack. And it's all going into the camera right here. So I'm gonna go record some stuff. Okay, so I'm just out in a park outside of my neighborhood. So I've got the 1985 Panasonic with me, so we're gonna check out how it ends up looking. All right. So, looks like crap. Let's film some flowers. Everyone likes flowers. Shooting a bow. Pigeons. Yeah, overall this shoulder thing that I have on here is a piece of shit. It doesn't work at all. I can't tell if it's in focus. There's no way to tell.
So yeah, I shot in the park and that's how it looks. It's kind of like everything is from the 80s or the 90s automatically once you shoot it on VHS, so that's kind of cool.
To sum up, I wanted to talk about some of the positive points about VHS. For one, it's a huge camera, and there's sort of this psychological sense you get when you're using it because you're holding something that's so big and you know that you're out there creating with this machine, and there's this sort of thing going on that's really powerful. And a lot of the old VHS cameras, despite lots of buttons, were actually pretty useful because they actually had manual and automatic controls. So you could actually do stuff, unlike some of the other cameras that came out towards like the 2000s that they started taking away all those options. So you were really getting kind of a professional camera. And VHS will always be a nostalgic thing we hold because there's nothing else quite like it. And I don't think there ever will be anything like it quite in the future. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.